Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and let's talk about neck lights. There are so many different choices, and basically evolution seems to be running rampant with these things right now. Costs can vary widely, the features, performance, but I'm just going to go through some of the options with neck lights using these as examples. Now headlights have been around for a long time, you know, the old miner days, and they really have condensed into a fairly set performance, and we kind of know what we're getting into. There are definitely different options and different colors of light and different outputs and batteries and stuff like that, but we kind of know what they do. Neck lights is a little bit out there still. There's a lot of stuff going on with neck lights, and what I've discovered in talking to people, and I often talk to people before my videos, just, you know, it might have been months ago, but I've asked a handful of folks about neck lights. Most of them, you know, don't have any need for one. You know, their lighting world is just fine right now. Others have said they tried them and they were awful. Actually, enough people said that, or that they didn't really need them, or that they didn't work very well, and I think that's because there was this uniform idea that a neck light was a neck light. And I've seen neck lights for under 20 bucks that just were atrocious. I had a little Hyper Tough one at one time, and it didn't fit very well. The lighting units were kind of sloppy. It ran on AA batteries. You know, it was kind of, in fact, the rubbery material was sort of questionable, I think, as far as how safe it was. And I've also used this Snap-on one, which is the most expensive one here, but not by much. This is 118 bucks off the truck right now, and I absolutely love this thing. The Matco is $116 off the truck, so $2 less. It's a different kind of a lighting system, and I'll get into why, and also some benefits and some problems. Milwaukee sells this for about $100, or I've seen it as low as $80 on some sales, and it has its own set of features, kind of unique. And then here is a Braun from Harbor Freight, and it's got its own set of features, and frankly this one I could see being a disappointment enough that people might not want neck lights because they think they're like this one. Now, does it mean it's worthless? No. It means that if you've used one of these others, you'll know right away what you're missing, and I'll go ahead and show you some of those things. So first of all, cost. Obviously, it's all over the place. A lot of people don't want to spend a bunch of money on a neck light, especially because it is something that might have limited use. Headlamps find their way all over in our lives and activities, whereas a neck light is a little bit different. I've tried to stretch it out into a few places, and no, I'd rather have a headlamp for lots of reasons. But basically, the cost is wild out there. There's a lot of $40, $50, $60 neck lights. There's some really good ones under $50, and you can get them in all kinds of different colors too, so sometimes that helps make up our minds. But let's go to brightness. I consider brightness basically arm's length. That's all I'm after, is whatever's right in front of me, and if I'm under a car, looking in a car, working on something, you know, whatever it is, I want a neck light that basically lights up whatever I can reach. It doesn't have to go much further, so that's why I don't need massive amounts of lumens. 500 is plenty. 300 is probably still good enough, unless you've got, you know, like if you're under a car and you're looking up and there's daylight above, you might need to compensate for what light you can see above you, you know, for your eye to adjust, and that's where a little bit brighter light can come in. But other than that, what happens is it gets into runtime. Runtime is battery weight. There's a few things I'll get into with that, but in all honesty, you don't need some big giant light cannon. You just need enough light to see what's within, I think, arm's reach away. And then there are some options. We're going to get into the focus of the light, but this Braun one has these, you see these, it says zoom there. This is awful. This is, in fact, it's not good, and that makes it worse as far as I can tell. To me, this is a selling feature for if you don't need a neck light, but you want to, that's all you got, and you're trying to use it as a longer flashlight or something. But there are problems with that, which I'll show you. But anyway, so there's also the color of the light that comes out. Milwaukee's using kind of their true colored light. And that to me is good. That can really help if you need that. Otherwise, you know, the sterile bright light of the Snap-on and Matco work just fine. The weight. Now, most of these are not terribly heavy because if they're wearing on your neck, you know, you've got a larger distribution area. Sometimes with a headlamp, you know, you've concentrated the weight into a block and then you've attached that to your forehead. Here, I look at it two ways. One is the overall weight, but what's the distribution? And as you can see, this Matco has a ton of weight in the front. This isn't too bad a problem unless it's causing issues because it doesn't fit tight enough, maybe your neck's small, or you're looking down or up. You know, and that causes this to move around. However, this is also the only one where these things spin 360 degrees. So maybe they're trying to compensate a little bit for that. So if it does start to fall down, you can just make adjustments with the ends, whereas all of these others are limited. Another thing, when I talk about the weight distribution, the Snap-on is actually beautiful because they've taken smaller light boxes up here and then the batteries are back here. So they basically have a nice balance point right there in the middle. And that's also because this one you can ride on your ears. So it has to balance. You don't want it smashing your head. Whereas the neck light proper generally falls down, and you could almost call it a shoulder light that goes around your neck or something like that. The Milwaukee is very light up front and very heavy in the back, so it's kind of the opposite of the Matco. And that's because they put a battery in here, and that's another option. If you want a replaceable battery, the penalty is you've got to build a substantial housing to hold the battery. And this is why computers got rid of removable batteries, or at least easily removable batteries, because they don't want to build a box to put the battery in. Instead, the computer is the box, and then there's just a battery inside it. So they cut a bunch of weight, they cut a bunch of engineering, you know, great reasons. But if you need something that you can swap out the battery, or maybe you're in the red lithium 3.0 USB 3.0 system, which I am with some other Milwaukee lights, flashlights and shop lights, you know, maybe that's what I want, because then I can swap these around. Unfortunately, if you look at these things, you know, I don't see a USB port on them. So in this case, I have to charge it inside this using the USB-C port here. So that kind of takes away a little bit of the advantage of having a removable battery, because I would want to swap it out. Instead, I'd have to charge it and then put it somewhere else and put another one in. But anyway, let's take a look at the front ends of these guys. The I/O, the operation. Now, generally, there are two main options starting out. One is if you push a button, do both lights come on? And on Snap-ons, each one has an individual light. Okay, on the Matco, same thing. But on the Harbor Freight one here, I push it, both lights come on. So what's the deal? Do you really want one? Well, if you get into the runtime on these, sometimes the extended runtime, the longest you can possibly get, is where you run one into the ground and then the other into the ground. So you basically are using them individually. Now that might work, especially if you can get this on target and it lasts long enough and is bright enough, great. Then that's an option. If you can only turn them both on, you probably have less runtime. And that's kind of a trick of math instead, because if you run both of these, it's probably about the same as both of these or both of these, but depending on how you get around it. Now, some of them also, like the Snap-on here, I can adjust the brightness by holding this, and I can dim this thing or make it brighter. To me, that's a completely worthless thing. I want it full blast, period. Sure, maybe there's an option. I'm reading some foil or something up close in the dark and I want a less of a light. That's rare. Instead, I just want it on and off. So that's where, like, Milwaukee kicks, you know, if on this one, I'm also getting a dim. That seems to be the thing. When you see that flicker there, that means it's gotten to the bottom, so now it's going up. I can dim these. That to me isn't all that great. On this one, it stays the same, or does it? I'm seeing a little bit maybe of a change. I don't know if it's supposed to, if I just hold that down, but this is really what it's after, is the ability to concentrate the light. So let's go ahead and look at that. If I point this down, and this is one of the problems with the Harbor Freight one. Let me lower this. As you can see, both of these are dialed back. They are not zoomed. And that is the reach of the light. And remember, I'm talking about something close. That's what these neck lights are all about. I think they just stuck two flashlights in the end. But it's sometimes hard to get away, hard to get far enough away. So I've got this little tiny work area. And then if I twist these, I'll go ahead and do both, then that makes it even worse. Now I've concentrated it, and that's what I'd be looking at probably if I was wearing it. So I don't see any advantage to that. And in fact, I'm still wondering, is this changing, or is it just, it's hard to tell. Yeah, I think, yeah, well, I don't know. I can't tell if this is changing or not, or maybe just short-circuiting or something. Let me try it up here and see if we can tell. I'll do it on that one. Is that changing brightness or not? There's something going on. There it goes, yeah. Okay, now I can kind of see it. Anyway, useless feature because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for what these are designed for. Here's the Milwaukee envelope. I should have probably started out with something like that, but remember, here's the Braun. So as you can see, that versus that. Same height. If I raise it up just a little, the Milwaukee lights up the whole table. The Braun still does not. Here is the snap-on. I'll turn on both of those. Snap-on. You can see maybe a little narrower than the Milwaukee, but plenty. And then the Matco. Turn on both. And that one's got a nice bright light. Another thing is artifacts. What happens when I get close? Because sometimes you are working close. And you can see there's good overlap and there's nothing weird going on. Here's the snap-on. Again, good overlap. Nothing weird going on. Milwaukee. Again, it's kind of behaving like one light. Nothing strange. And then this one. This is behaving. You know, especially if you see how tight that is, if I separate those just a little bit, you can see how that behaves. And then are there any artifacts? This is like an artifact. That's chromatic aberration. That's a discoloration around the outside of the lens where the wavelengths are bending a little bit differently. You don't see that too much here. You do see a little bit more. You can pick it up on the camera in hotspot. In real life, it's very hard to see. This is nice and uniform. This lighting here, you can tell it's a little bit bluer. This is about the same temperature of light. You can see there it does have a little bit of angularity due to the angles of the light. So that's one option. So I'm not too worried about any of these, but I do think that this one, you know, it's a little tougher to work with given what you're supposed to do with, or what the usual use of neck lights is. As far as the battery life, again, if you're running one or both, you're getting 3 to 6 hours maybe. Kind of depends. Some people have said they get awfully hot. Some people have said they've seen smoke coming out of them. In fact, I was reading reviews on the Milwaukee. I don't know if that's really the case, because sometimes when you're in an environment where there's a little bit of dust or something, it looks like it's coming out of the lens. And I've left this thing on and it doesn't. I'm not getting much temperature out of these things. It's just not that powerful, unless it was shorting out or something like that. As far as design and comfort, they're designed to go around the neck at a minimum. This one also for ears. Some people apparently thought this was, reading reviews again for the Milwaukee, that this was also one of those ear ones, and it's not. And I guess you could wear it as that. It's not too bad. There is a little bit of a balance. It's a little back heavy, but you could try it. Nobody's stopping you. This is nice and soft. I assume maybe you can use a band on this. I don't know. But this one is really rubberized, whereas Snap-on's pretty slippery. Milwaukee's got kind of a grippy rubber in there, and then the Braun is also kind of a grippier rubber. That's probably the most grippy one. So as far as comfort, wearing it and then angling it and then seeing if that balances for what you intend on using, if you're going to be looking down or up or moving around a lot, because there's a lot of mass on this one here. So that's just another consideration. As far as comfort, turning your chin around back and forth, just seeing if you're bumping into it, because that can be kind of a big thing there, but I haven't found it to be too bad. And then other options. Okay, so we've got the interface. Do you need it to brighter or get brighter or dim? Luckily they aren't running, you know, strobes and other stupid designs on these things, but the different neck bands, replaceable parts on the Snap-on, and I believe the Matco, you can get replaceable parts. You can buy any part here and really make it an expensive one. These, like, everything's 40 bucks. 40 bucks for one of these pieces, 40 bucks for that, 40 bucks for the headband. These have built-in batteries. You can see I can access the screw there, so if I wanted, I could take this off, or I could tighten it up. This one also, I said, rotates 360, and there are detents there. The Snap-on, silky smooth. That's the limit, up and down. The Milwaukee goes up a little bit higher and down a little bit lower. Again, no detents. And then the Braun, there are definite clicks, and it's got the least range of motion of all of them. So I guess in general, I think they're really good ones. I think they're very helpful. I think there's plenty of room. You know, say if Klein wanted to start, you know, working on a neck light, that would be great. It seems like they should have one. They do have all kinds of different headlights or headlamps, but I don't think they have a neck light. But anyway, so there's plenty of direction to go. I do like lightweight. I do like the distribution where you've got the battery separate, so it balances this nicely. I do not need an adjustable brightness. You do have individuals, often they are an individual charging, whereas this one, you know, is both. So the charging is back here in this battery right there, and then on the Milwaukee the same thing, it's both, and the charging's back here. So that's another option. So you either need two chargers or they come with a special, you know, double charger. And then of course color. You know, the green got me on this one. Matco green's a little bit more yellowy there. Some people are into that. Or if you're a Milwaukee tool user. The Olsa one I did have, it's actually not in this shop right now, has a magnet on the back, so it does have some other features as well, so that's one to look into. But anyway, what I'd like to do is throw this back out to you. What do you like or dislike about the neck light you've used or you have? What do you wish was in a neck light? Because I think all these companies are still working. This is not Snap-on's first neck light. You know, in Milwaukee, I think this is their first neck light. And there are some companies, like I mentioned, Klein, that don't have a neck light yet. So what would make the neck light be the most successful lighting in that space for you? You know, I pointed out what I thought with the Snap-on. What do you think? Let me know. And with that, Doc out.